States and Mexico, ban Muslims, and deport the bad hombres. How would Ravi survive this next presidency? Suddenly, the hope of being among President Obama's last remaining pardons was all we had left. Hope. It was President Obama's promise, yet so fleeting for immigrants. President Obama's policies had helped to build a vast machinery for deportation. 3 million people had been forcibly deported from the United States during the Obama administration, more than any other prior presidency. It wasn't that President Obama shared his successors' anti-immigrant views. To the contrary, he cared deeply about immigrants. He urged Congress to take on immigration reform, and in the vacuum, stepped in. Pushed by young activists, he created Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, or DACA, a temporary 2-year reprieve from deportation for people who came to the United States as children. While he ramped up deportations, focused primarily on people who had criminal records, he also urged immigration officials to exercise discretion in light of people's individual circumstances. To President Obama and the long line of political leaders before him who straddled similar lines, these approaches went hand in hand. On one side were the worthy few who deserved to stay. DACA's youthful recipients, for example, came here through no fault of their own. In the words of President Obama, these young people and their families deserved to come out of the shadows and get right with the law. On the other side were those who, by comparison, were not so deserving. We're going to keep focusing enforcement resources on actual threats to our security, President Obama explained. Felons, not families. Criminals, not children. With these words, President Obama gave voice to the views held by millions of Americans who believe that we can achieve a more just immigration system by bringing the good immigrants out of the shadows. But where did that leave a person like Ravi, a hardworking man with a family and a felony conviction? On what side of the line between good and bad immigrants did he belong? And so the shadows spread as our political leaders debated who among us deserved to come into the light, just in time for a new administration to target more immigrants than ever before. As we feared, Ravi would be on that list. For many years, the dividing lines in our immigration policies were largely invisible to me. Immigrant communities were always being asked to get right with the law. We were rarely encouraged to ask whether the law is right. My parents came to the United States from India decades ago. They were green card holders when my brother and I were born here, and they decided to stay. My parents still have a faded copy of the U.S. Constitution that they were given when they became citizens. America is our home, and it's the only home that I've ever known. But in time, it became clear that how we viewed America and how America viewed us were two different things. We loved our country, but not everyone here believed that we belonged. My parents' accents, our brown skin, what we ate, how we prayed, these were the telltale signs that collectively marked us as foreigners despite our citizenship status. It began to bother me as a child that people like me were not automatically accepted as American. It was that otherness that drove me years later to attend law school. The law, I thought, would be the tool to fight for inclusion and justice for all, regardless of where you were born or the color of your skin. But when I began representing immigrants who face deportation, I learned that the law itself is part of the problem. The law is rarely on the side of those who seek to come to the United States and thrive here. Rather than welcome people, the law excludes, exploits, and punishes. For many years, it did so explicitly on the basis of race. Had my parents sought to come to the United States much earlier than they did, they would have been barred from entry because they were Indian. The fall of most racial barriers to immigration by the 1960s brought demographic change to the United States. But, as I would come to learn, it did not fundamentally alter the character of the law. Immigration law still excludes, exploits, and punishes. It still targets people of color. And while many immigrants do succeed and thrive in the United States, they do so despite the law, not because of it. America criminalizes immigrants. People become suspects before they even set foot on this soil. And the moment they falter, the law sweeps in to do its